Professor J thinks of revising some topics with his old mates and decides to schedule a meeting at his home. He calls everybody for confirmation and then they fix the time. Professor J is waiting for his friends while he arranges some documents. After some time, Professor Sharma shows up.
Oh, hello, Professor Sharma. How are you doing these days?
Hello, my friend. Hello. Nothing, just busy with some research work. And what about you? Shall we start the revision?
I'm fine too. I see you are in a hurry today as well. Okay, let's start discussing with some basics.
Did I miss something, friends?
No, you didn't.
Oh, I see. Sharma's boy is here too.
Yeah, not funny.
Hello there, fellas, and first of all, please tell me which topic are we revising?
Agents of pollination. Should we do it?
Yeah, fine, and I have invited two kids, science magazine publishers. They will be noting down some points from our discussion. Is that fine, all of you?
Yes.
Mr. Bhavya and Mr. Albin comes in and tells everybody that they are the magazine publishers and now everybody can start the discussion.
Greetings, gentlemen. Well, what topics are you discussing today? Can you tell me so that we can start the discussion?
We are revising agents of pollination.
So, as we know that plants use two types of agents of pollination. Abiotic, that is wind and water, and biotic, that is animals.
Yes, and the majority of them use biotic agents. Only a small number of plants use abiotic ones.
Also, the number of pollen grains are much more than that of ovules.
Well, sir, can you tell me why is the number of pollen grains more than the ovules? And is there a specific reason also?
Yes, it's because many of the pollen grains never reach stigma. It's a chance factor.
In abiotic pollination, wind is more common because pollen grains are light and can be transported through wind currents.
These flowers have single ovule in each ovary and numerous flowers packed into an inflorescence like corn cob.
By water, if we see the pollination occurs only in some monocotyledons, example Vallisneria, Hydrilla, and some sea grasses like Zoostera.
Not all aquatic plants use water as pollinating agents. Some plants, like water hyacinths, have their flowers emerge out of the water.
Then, how do they pollinate?
By wind or insects.
Exactly, in Vallisneria, the female flower is on the surface of the water, so the pollen grains are released on the surface too, and carried by the water currents.
Some plants like sea grasses are fully submerged in water, so pollen grains are released inside the water only.
Don't the pollen grains get wet?
Yeah, most of the water pollinated species have a protective mucigenous covering that saves them from being wet.
Well, the majority of flowering plants use animals as pollinating agents like bees, flies, beetles, wasps, birds, and many more.
And the bees are particularly dominant biotic pollinating agents.
Yes, large animals like primates, arboreal rodents, and reptiles, they also sometimes help in pollination.
Most of the insects' pollinated flowers are large, colorful, fragrant, and rich in nectar. When flowers are small, several flowers are clustered into an inflorescence to give them a cluster look.
Animals are.
Professor, I'm sorry to disturb you, but can you tell me what do you mean by conspicuous here?
It means that the flower looks clearly visible.
Yeah. So the animals are attracted by the colorful look and fragrance of the flowers. For example, flowers pollinated by the beetle and flies release a foul odor.
And I think for continuous animal visits, flowers give them a reward, which in most cases is pollen grains and nectar. While in some species, flowers also provide safe space for the insects to lay their eggs. For example, moth and plant yucca.
Yeah. And what happens in moth and yucca?
You see, their life cycles are totally interdependent. While moths lay their eggs on the locule and in turn pollinates the flower.
And how do those insects carry the pollen grain?
Pollen grains are sticky and they stick to the insect while they are claiming their rewards. Also, some insects consume the pollen grains instead of pollinating them. Such insects are known as pollen or nectar robbers. For example, bumblebee, carpenter bee, and many more. But pollination takes place anyway as the pollens stick to the insect.
Most of the flowers produce hermaphrodite flowers, that is, both male and female reproductive organs are in the same flowers. And pollen grains comes in contact generally with the stigma of the same flower, and this continued self-pollination may result in inbreeding depression.
What is this interbreeding depression? Is it related to their health?
Inbreeding depression generally results in bad fitness, and also the plants they lose their reproductive ability. And for avoiding this, plants encourage cross pollination by developing certain devices like irregular synchronization of pollen release and stigma respectively. Either the pollen grains release earlier than the stigma becomes receptive, or vice versa.
Also, the location of anther and stigma is shown in such a manner that pollen grains can't reach stigma.
Okay, and how does this device work?
It's a genetic mechanism that prevents self-pollen from fertilizing the ovule by inhibiting the pollen germination or by inhibiting pollen tube growth in pistil. Another device is unisexuality. In some plants like maize, both male and female flowers are present on the single flower, preventing autogamy. But in some other plants like papaya, both male and female flowers are present on two different plants, hence preventing both autogamy and getonogamy.
Okay, suppose this is pistil. Pistil has the ability to recognize right and wrong type of pollen. If the pollen is of right type, pistil accepts it and allows post-pollination events. But if the pollen is of wrong type, pistil rejects it by preventing pollen germination on the stigma or pollen tube growth in the style.
How is it done? Is it genetic?
No. This ability of pistil is a direct result of the continuous dialogue between the pistil and the pollen grains. For ease, understand that it is an interview and the pistil knows it very well that what kind of employees are needed for the company, that is the flower.
Quite a good example, Professor J. This dialogue is mediated by the chemical components of pollen interacting with those pistils. So if we see Professor J's example, then this interview is being conducted in a chemical language. Is the discussion over or there is still something left?
No, the discussion's over. The narrator had to do the outro, but I think he isn't there.
The narrator do the outro already.
Oh, I totally fell asleep. I'm really sorry for that. Thank you everyone who are present in our audience. Thank you ma'am for giving us such an opportunity. We hope that you enjoyed our play. Now roll the credits.